Robin Hardy is best remembered in film history for having directed one of the greatest horror films of all time, 1973's The Wicker Man. But little do people know that Hardy had also written and directed an apparently awful sequel of sorts to The Wicker Man in 2011 called The Wicker Tree, based on his own novel of the same name. But also, more interestingly, a completely different thriller in 1986 called The Fantasist, being his only other directorial work. And being a huge fan of The Wicker Man, I immediately went out and watched this obscure film, hoping for the best. The Fantasist is set up as a mystery thriller about a young woman who moves to Dublin, Ireland to begin a new life. Patricia, played by Moira Harris, begins receiving phone calls from a stranger and discovers that there is a psychopathic killer of young women on the loose. Patricia becomes the love interest of two men, for both of which there is evidence that they could be the killer. Now that synopsis does sound pretty damn awesome. A sort of Bird of the Crystal Plumage Agatha Christie type thriller, which was marketed as a sort of erotic thriller. Now, did The Fantasist turn out to be as good as it sounded? Well, it started out decent. It had a sort of 80s slasher opening scene with a young woman being stabbed to death by a mysterious killer, and then Moira Harris moves to Dublin and receives a mysterious phone call from a stranger. Well, this was pretty good so far, I said to myself watching this film. However, after these first few scenes, it felt like the film didn't really know what it was anymore. It jumped from being a weird drama, with Patricia being romantically entangled with Timothy Bottoms' character, an American writer, and also being the object of desire by teacher Robert Foxley, both men who the film hints at could be the killer. But the Fantasist scenes and plot elements that dealt with the actual killings and thriller nature of this film were rather lousy, and you weren't really sure anymore whether the serial killer plot was the main focus of this film, and that it wasn't just a drama with a serial killer subplot. We find out that the murderer is obsessed with this particular painting of a naked woman lying on her back, and that he lures women in to pose for him in this exact position, and then he kills them. The film's climax had Moira Harris posing nude for the killer, and then we're held in suspense and tension as we anticipate the killer to strike, or not. That was the film's strongest scene by far, and then the ending was a complete anticlimax, making The Fantasist a completely pointless piece of work. A film that could have been good because of its terrific premise, but one that Robin Hardy ultimately failed to make into a good film. Feel free to watch The Fantasist and make up your own mind, but I'm gonna stick to The Wicker Man. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Context and Craft, and for those of you new subscribers to BlumenFalck, Context and Craft is a series that we run on this channel in which we talk about forgotten, obscure, rare, or even popular selected films. Check out our other videos in this series, which I'll post a link to in the description. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and see you next Friday.